Mm.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the second half of the conversation with Pan. We're going to jump right in. So we were just starting to go into a powerful place. So let's just go right in.
Okay, good. We start again.
How can we do that, right? I think you were talking about, first you said something about synchronicity and the power of, yeah.
The magnetism of once an individual, a human, has experienced non-duality, you were beyond a dualistic mind, you had a glimpse of what you really are, what is the nature of your being. You never can forget. It will always, the mind stores it because it's a memory system. It will always call you, and the wish, because it was so beautiful, to experience it again, is the call. That puts people on a journey. You see, I have heard Osho saying that psychologists have found out, or say, and that makes sense, I heard that information from Osho, that the search for enlightenment is the memory of the womb, because we were one with the mother. We did not even have the phrase mother, but we were one with somebody, and you had nothing to do. Everything was taken care of. You were fed, you were safe, you were growing, you were just floating in liquid. And so you can say that's the paradise. You're in oneness. There's no separation. And then the journey starts with being thrown out of the paradise, called birth, what is the first fear experience. From the viewpoint of the born, of the baby, it's not life, it's death. You do not know that this experience of being separated, of experiencing fear, is going to be birth, is going to be life. So the spiritual birth, the birth of the spirit of the soul, goes through the same process. So once the call has happened, you can postpone, you can try to forget it, but you cannot. So some people come already with, how to say that, with a soul who remembers early, sometimes very early. Many mystics had unusual experience already as children. They were a bit out of the norm, what is often not an easy fate, because you do not fit. You're actually a misfit. And if there is a kind of developed soul, even if it's in a small body, it can take that. So you come already with a call. And that call will be answered by existence. You will have experiences beyond the dualistic mind. Howsoever they come into existence, it has to happen. And then you have to go further. You can never stop. So you see, the thing is, the journey, the most difficult thing in humans is to start the spiritual journey. Once that seed is placed into the heart, you already on the point of no return. You have to go on. The seed is there, the call has happened. So you asked me a little bit about this so-called individual journey in this life. Very early, I realized the common offering, what's commonly the parents, the society offers to you, is not for me. I knew when I was in a certain age, I think 12, around 12 years old, a few things I do not want to, I'm not interested that they happen in my life. The first one was marriage. The second one, to have your own house. And the third one, to have your own children. It was clear to me, this is not for me. And the fourth one is to make a career and have success in the society. These four things were clear to me that I'm not interested in. And when I was asked why, I was hesitant to give the answer. I kept it for myself. And here and there I said it. It was very simple because I see, look, you people have done that all and you are so unhappy. Why should I do the same to be unhappy? But then it was trouble. They started to argue where you got this from. You should stop to read these books. And because immediately it was translated, this is something, he has the wrong mind, you know, and he gets it from somewhere. Who told you this? And then I said, yeah, actually to observation, I see this with you. You must be crazy. And then I said, okay, I decided not to say anything anymore, to keep it for myself, that I'm not interested in that. Okay, and then you know what you do not want, but to live, you have to know what you actually want. I knew that I do not want to follow the values of this society. I lived, so to say, in a state of rejecting everything. But you have to, it's a no state. You have to find something where you say yes to and say, okay, this is my direction, for this I live, makes sense to me as an individual. So I was searching. I found then other friends who were also not really fitting. You find the right people, law of attraction. Then you look, I read many books, what was available, especially what fascinated me then very strongly were books of Hermann Hesse, because it was all in German and described mystical experiences and all kinds of literatures who were outside of the common literature. And then psychedelic experiences and all these things. So that was the early search. And then actually a shock brought me then even further, because I repressed a lot of strong feelings like anger and hatred. And I was then with 18, 17, my first relationship, and I was so afraid to lose that woman that I swallowed many things I should not have swallowed. It was not her fault, it was my mistake. I made enormous compromises out of fear to lose her. And one day I had an eruption. and had a blackout and attacked her physically. And of course, that was the end of the relationship. And it gave me a shock, saying, my God, there is a murderous energy in you. And you do not really know what is inside of you. There is also, you can say, a kind of dark side in you. And you have, this has to get, something needs to be done about that. And in those days, group therapy was starting to unfold in Europe. So I joined a group. It was called Therapeutic Community, and we lived in a commune, so it was fitting. And it was done by one of Osho's early sannyasins. He's not in the body anymore. His name was Anand Viresh. And he was a group therapist and a sannyasin. So in this 1 month group, many of my traumatic things surfaced, and parts of it could be healed. And this, of course, connected this individual with the energy of his master. That means in those days, Bhagwan, later known as Osho. And then the famous book of Be Here and Now fell into my hands from Ram Dass. Yeah. What?
Yeah, I have it right here next to me.
Yes. Yeah. And I was sitting on a hillside, on a mountainside, and was reading it. And there was a page where something about the guru, and that I was reading that page, and I knew I have to go to India now. I have to see this Rajneesh, this Bhagwan. I felt the call. And then I dropped, and the sculpture school I was attending in those days, and went to a factory who took students for short-time jobs because I had no money as a student. I mean, just to live, but no extra. Yeah. And I worked in their night shift, Sunday work, just to gather the money together. And then I drove overland, a car for Irani people. You got some little money and had half of the journey for free. I had to see that man. Because in that group, we did dynamic meditation, all this Osho meditation, and it had a strong effect in me. Something changed, something, these moments where I had experienced with LSD, but now sober, without a substance, these little satoris. So it was a long journey overland, a great adventure. First time out of Europe, I was, I think, 24, that age. And then just this synchronicities happened. I ended up in the wrong bus and ended up in Varanasi. It was actually the wrong direction. I had to go another one. And from there, I had this strong call to see the Himalayas, so I went to Nepal. And there I had an out-of-body experience to a food poisoning, where I spent it sometimes, so to say, the spirit spent it sometimes on the ceiling and watched the body, what was very pleasant, because then I did not feel the pain anymore. A food poisoning is extremely painful. And went to the fear of dying, and then was just a sober experience. Okay, this body is 24, it's quite healthy and strong, it could make it, and it made it. And that all happened before I met Osho. And then back from the Himalayas to whole North India, back to what is now Mumbai, and those days Bombay, and then to Pune. And then I arrived 1 year later after I took sannyas by letter, because it took me 1 year to get the trip together. Exactly at the day where I got the sannyas paper at the 11th of December, something like this. And it was his birthday. And in those days, he gave darshan. It means you could come physically close. And there was a certain amount of people celebrating his birthday, and a row of people who could come close to his chair and stand there for a moment to have a close encounter. And he was sitting there, eyes closed, and he had this strange way to tap the rhythm of the music very slowly. And it was when I came into it was called the Shantatsu Auditorium. It was an open porch actually, with a roof but open to the garden. And when I came in there, I said, my God, this is the frequency was so high. It reminded me completely on, my God, everybody here is on a trip. Yeah, it was extremely intense and a very high frequency. And then slowly I came closer to his chair, and it became very silent. And all the music and people clapping and dancing and celebrating faded very far back to the background. And then I was standing in front of the chair, and he had his eyes closed. And then my non-observed mind, as Eckhart Tolle calls it, what you call the ego, was completely disappointed. Because the mind said, now I came such a long way. It took me 1.5 years travel and working and dropping everything, leaving Europe. And now I'm standing here and he's not even looking at me. Oh, it's complete disappointment. That's unfair. Now I am here. Please see me. Huh? See me, recognize me. Here is the I. The I, what I thought I am. And then something very unexpected happened. He slowly opened his eyes and he looked at me as if he has read my thoughts. And that very moment, I got a complete, almost to compare it, to put it into something, a kind of electric shock. Because in that eyes, I saw nobody. It was, to describe, I can only describe it like this: when you look in the night, into a starry night, what is just this huge space with all these lights, stars, and there is not a particular somebody. There is just, yeah, it was like now the universe looked at me. And this I looked into the universe, and that very moment, the phrase what came in my mind was, arrived, you're at home, journey ends. And then for about, it's difficult to say, about 15 to 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I had no more thoughts. Of course, I had to move on. Actually, the impulse was to sit down and don't move an inch anymore. This is so far out. I do not want to go anywhere. But then there was one of the bodyguards, move, more people. And of course, then I got it. Of course, move on. You cannot just now sit here and block the way. So I moved on and went out again. And it took quite some time before I had a thought again. I was just in a space what I knew before from a trip. And what freaked then the mind was, but you have taken nothing. How to explain that? How to explain from the viewpoint of the mind that the look of somebody, obviously there was a body, can do this? What kind of transmission was this? And then it freaked. Then I had the greatest mind attack afterwards. It freaked out completely. What was it? Is this hypnosis? Is this paranoid, the fear mind? Is this hypnosis? Is this black magic? What was happening? But some spell was broken. There was a moment of disidentification, a moment of being in the original space, let's call it like this, to remembering what you are. And then a process started who has not ended, who is still happening. Yeah. Then I went again, or he sent me to group therapies because still certain fear traumas were not released. You had to be relived consciously again. And this whole trauma release, you go to the same feelings, but you are conscious and you always come back to the here and now. And the therapist or the people who facilitate this make sure that you at some point open your eyes and realize it's all no more real. It's just an emotional hologram. You have to go through one more time, and then you can put it into oblivion, say, okay, it's done. But this experience of being not my usual me anymore was there extremely helpful, because then I could go to these scary emotional memories to relive that. And there was this custom, especially in Pune 1, after you have did a lot of therapy groups, you were sent to the meditation groups like Vipassana, where you just go in, or Sasen, or the classical meditation things, groups. And then after this, a little while later, you were prepared to work in the ashram. So then the work became your meditation. It's called meditation in action. So that was the basic preparation in those days. And yeah, then it was endless experiences of non-ordinary states. And then slowly, slowly, it's where you live. It's not scary anymore. It's your life. It's what you are. And then around 2000, it became so strong that, yeah, there was such a drive to share. But then I did not know how. What shall I do? Because I cannot do it. So I asked this question, so what do you do now? Because there is such an urge to share this. You cannot hold it anymore. It's so big. You have to pass it on to human beings because it's such a blessing. You cannot keep it for yourself. And then for what self? It's an overflow. So I asked myself, how to do that? What to do now? There was this satsang wave in Europe, me giving satsang, no, that felt so off, me giving, what me gives what? So I put, I had these Osho tapes still. So I put one in those days in the tape recorder, pushed the button, and it was just somewhere stopped and started again. And this is one of the synchronicities, were so beautiful. The voice said, "Since when does the well run after the thirsty?" The thirsty come always to the well. So I switched the tape off and said, okay, I do nothing. You scare people when the well suddenly runs after you. It freaks people out. So you do nothing. So I wrote a handwritten letter, and I made a few copies from that handwritten text to my friends. Look, from now on, I'm no more interested in anybody and socializing and the usual thing. I'm only interested to share essence, because that's what really burning in my heart. So you're welcome. I'm very happy and I'm very grateful to you that I can share this with you. And then I was sending this to 20 or 25 friends, and they all, except for one or two, suddenly they canceled friendship. They said, now you have gone mad. So, okay, good, interesting experience. Yeah, but I did nothing. And then I remember the story of Henry Miller. He is a beautiful book. It's a more or less the review of his life. A young man came to Henry Miller and asked him, you are a famous author, and I have this wish to become an author. What shall I do? How to start that? And Henry Miller said to him, buy tea. You drink mate. Yeah. What the hell has it to do with writing? What has tea to do with it? So, wait a minute, let me explain. You buy tea and you invite some people you know, give them free tea and maybe a few sweets, and say it's all for free. You invite them to a tea party. And when they are there and sipping their tea, you start to read your manuscripts. Maybe they get interested. This I remember that, okay, maybe that's a way. So there were still some friends who had not yet written that letter to. They were just in the closer surrounding from my former artist connections, some supporters and some friends who came often to the exhibitions. So I invited them for the famous tea party with cake and everything, all for free, and I would like to share something with you. So about 15 to 20 people came. So I started just to share. So some felt a bit uncomfortable with that whole happening, but he waited, because you know how mind is. There is still the coffee, the tea, and the free cake. So they waited to this, and then this, of course, happened. And after this, half of the people left. Because I said, we will continue after the tea. And they said, yeah, thank you. That was very interesting, very great, but he had some excuses. It was not for them. And then we continued after the tea, and for the people left, I promised a free dinner. So half of were going to that first sharing, to the free dinner. After the free dinner, there still was a lot of energy in me, because it was so wow, the first time just happening to share like we share now. So I said, after the dinner, we will continue. So the other half left. And in the end, there were 6 people left. And when we came to the point to say to that subject, to ask, who are you? Who am I? What for you are here? One woman stood up and said, oh, it's enough now. I do not want to do this again. She did once a group, and with this koan, it was too much for her. She got scared, the mind got scared. And then said, I have to leave now. Unfortunately, there were these 3 other people coming with her. They wanted to stay, but she was the driver and she had the car. They also had to leave. So 2 people were left when we came to who am I? So we ended at midnight with that question. And then the 2 people left. I said, okay, we will continue at Sunday, next Sunday. Next Sunday, one came back. So that's an interesting happening. But with that one, we continued. We had a beautiful sharing. And then I said, look, we do this now every Sunday. If you have friends and people interested, you just bring them. And so it happened. Next Sunday, he came again with 2-3 friends. They were actually his employees. He had a little garden business. So he took his workers, you have to come now, in his car. And then slowly, something started to happen and attracted people. And since then, it has not ended. You know, people come, people go, people come to their so-called limits, because then their traumatic experiences, their fears start to resonate. You know, the fear experience is a super intense happening, right? And when you come into an intensity again, it starts to resonate. And then it depends how much trust somebody has. Or if they at that point say, that's my limit, of course, the mind will, some say this is the limit, but some find other excuses. This is not for me. This is not my way. I have to do something else and so on. But actually it's an escape. And then the most courageous soul stays, who go through it and get transformed. And the transformation is the preparation for the transcending the mind. You still can think. That's very important. Otherwise, you become an imbecile. Yeah, you still will have a mind, and you need it. It's a beautiful mechanism, but you're not ruled by it anymore. There is the transcendence, is the shift to the clear recognition, and you more and more settle in it, that your soul, that your spirit, that your consciousness, and this is not a personal thing you can claim. It just appears in that what we call a person and keeps it alive. And anybody who opens up to this it's a frequency, can fall in tune and remember, I'm the same frequency, I just have forgotten. That's the whole process of awakening. And then, of course, you see, this is now an older body. It was a long journey on this planet. You know, I could fill books with my experiences, but they come spontaneous. I will never write my memoirs or something, you know, because I'm not interested in this. But with sometimes as a story, it comes because it can illustrate something I like to point at. Yeah. And when you read the stories of all these mystics, they're all a bit out of the frame, of the usual frame. These are adventurous. Male, female, doesn't matter. These are real adventurers, soul adventurers, explorer of consciousness. Therefore, you need an adventurous spirit, more than a curiosity, because you need also the courage to go into this, for the mind, scary spaces. And don't blame yourself or judge yourself when you come to a point and says, oh no, now I cannot go further. Okay, you hit the limit, but don't accept it as a limit. Go there again. If you need somebody to encourage you, say, okay, I'm with you. Take the offer. It's the offer of existence. It offers you a support. That you can step over this limit. That expands your ability to feel, or better to say, your ability to be sensitive. That expands your mental capacities. That expands your, how to call that, your spiritual unfolding. And this is all one. For language, I can categorize it in different aspects, but this is always one. It always happens simultaneously. And I love that. I heard this from Osho. He said that the Buddha has said, enlightenment is the 100% capacity to feel, to be sensitive. What is compassion? It's empathy. You can feel with humans, you can feel with plants, you can feel with animals, you can feel with the whole creation. And then you're not separate because you feel the oneness. If it is just a philosophy, a mental concept, it's a good start because it is a pointer in the direction. But unless you feel it, it is not a reality for you as an individual. And here we go again. We have to make the shift from the fear mind to the fearless state, and it's in our heart center. The heart is fearless, but it's the gateway to the irrational, to the mystical. The mind is needed for the material world, for the rational world. It's the tool. And in a balanced human being, the mind needs to become the servant for the heart, the servant for the spirit, and then it awakens to his brilliance, to his genius, but only as a servant, as the one who is the speaker, but not the source. It's just the loudspeaker, but the music comes from the CD. Then the mind, when you take the loudspeaker, can misinterpret and say, oh, I'm the music. No, you're just a transmitter. The music comes from another source. Ramana Maharshi used the example because in his time radio was the latest invention. You say, look, you can open the radio and look if there's somebody in it. There's nobody in it. It's just a receiver. Such is our body-mind system. We are receivers. We are something is transmitted to this vehicle. But then the mind believes I am the center of the universe. And that's the misinterpretation of any ego. Then you're the center of the universe and you're scared to make a mistake, and then you commit mistakes, then you hide them and you learn nothing. We have to be honest. Honesty means don't pretend that you're a grown-up when you're suddenly in a childish state. Can happen. And then you ask yourself, if you're in fear, how old are you? And the first number what comes is true. And then just admit, now I'm I'm living a childish facet. You only have to admit it and it is over. But our mind is so ashamed and has so many judgments. How can you be like this? You should be perfect. Then you hide your mistakes and then you learn nothing. So to be awakened means to be honest. Now look, I'm also just an imperfect human being, and I make mistakes. My perception is formed by the information I have. But I have a flexible mind because I'm not identified with it. If I get a different information, that changes my mind. I believed in many things until I got the different information. Okay, I changed my beliefs because the latest information doesn't fit into the belief I had before. So I dropped the belief and say, now, for me, it is like this. That's why mystics are so unpredictable. They have not a fixed mind. So what I say now, I maybe say the opposite a bit later, because you look from a different perspective at that mystery called life. It depends how I look at it. When people came to Ramana Maharshi, for example, and it was the same with Mahavir, he had the same way of speaking. said, oh, you're a saint. Does God exist? Mahavir said, perhaps. Ramana said, it depends. If you look from that window, it exists. If you look from that window, it doesn't exist. It depends from which perspective you look at the phenomenon called life. You can say, maybe there exists a God, maybe not. And then they were confused and asked Ramana, but you are a man of God realization. How can you say something like this? So yeah, because I know, I'm the perspective. To me it is so, but that doesn't mean that it is for you so. So the believer does not know. If you know, you do not need to believe. And if you really know, you do not need to prove. It would be absurd to prove that I'm in a male body by pulling down my trousers and show my genitals. This is the proof. This is absurd. I know that I'm in a male body, so I have not the slightest interest to prove that. I'm not mad and doubting it. So if you know, you know. And you do not want to convince anybody. You will not argue for what you know. You just share it. And if somebody accepts it, thank you. If somebody does not accept it, also thank you. Then it is not for you. Maybe some other time, maybe some other incarnation. I had to, you were translating Ramdas' books when he was asked, I'm not ready yet for the awakening. Yeah, that's great. Then you have to go out into the world, make more karma, suffer a bit more, then you get ready. And you have suffered enough. You say, okay, I'm ready to go beyond this fear mind. Can you help me or point the way? Of course, such people can, but you have to be ready for it. And the good news is, in these times where the darkness starts to spread, many have to get ready. We said it before, it's the challenge for all the beings who carry somewhere a light to come out now, to switch it fully on. We have not, right now, not the time to go slow. It's the time to jump. We had, when I take Europe, 1945, the Second World War ended. Then it took quite some time to rebuild everything. So after that collective shock for a big part of the world of such a big war, there was a time where things were built up again. Is the time where things looked like going easy. The human rights were, at least in the democratic countries, protected. You had a lot of freedom to travel, freedom of speech. It looked like we are heading for a decade of outer freedom. That has changed suddenly. So now we are not in a situation to spend endless time with non-essential things. We have to awaken now very fast, not to end in the next, and this time it will be a global dictatorship. Not only for certain regions. Well, Uruguay had a military junta who gave up at some point without making a bloody mess. Blessed country. Other countries had to fight for it, So this time it's a global attack on the outer freedom. The inner freedom nobody can take away. The awakened people and the people who, also the people close to it, they know this freedom you cannot take. But in a situation of no outer freedom, spirituality cannot really prosper. It cannot be stopped. It's interesting, I came to know that still in China, in communist China, where spirituality is actually forbidden, not wanted, and repressed, there are still Taoist masters are living and teaching, but very hidden, very invisible. Even when a country falls into dark spaces, where just materialism, what is very destructive and not respecting and valuing life. Matter is all. The body is all, the society is all, and we can sacrifice individuals. That doesn't matter because they are just matter. In such a situation, in such a dark place, and China is a big country, still the light of consciousness doesn't switch off. It's just hidden. So even in a global dictatorship, it will not disappear. It will go on working. But it is hindered in thriving for a certain time again. Gurdjieff lived by the Nazis occupied Paris and went on teaching in his apartment. And he was on the list of the Gestapo as somebody who needs to be observed, but never anything happened to him and his people. Yeah, so that has a higher protection. But it also was very limited. It could not spread. It could not, you see, the Taoist masters in China cannot have a podcast and it's sent all over China, then he will be arrested. So this is not possible. It makes also no sense. It will be just, the police will take you. And they put you maybe in a re-education camp.
Yeah, kind of like a plant not being able to grow during the if there is no sun, let's say.
Yes, it's like a plant in a pot that can survive, but it cannot spread into the open. And it's not the time that this happens again. So it's really a challenge to all the good-hearted people and all the conscious people and all the spiritual people. We have to stand up now, not to fight, not political fight, but we have to stand up and say we are not agreeing, we are not complying, we are not taking your medication because it is designed to change your chemistry, to destroy your immune system. And when you change the physical chemistry, you influence also the spirit. You cannot destroy it, but it has an influence. And if you're enlightened people, you can change the chemistry of their body. That will not have an impact on their spirit, but then they cannot live in the body so long anymore. And people who are on the way or close to awakening, it will become a hindrance because their body is not well. They're still having body identifications. They're still having identifications with their thought. And the finer bodies, the more subtle bodies, getting disturbed. And we do not want this to happen. And that's actually one of the attempts with this new medication to destroy the ability of individuals to connect to the beyond. There are suspicions of scientists that this new medication changes your DNA. It prepares you for artificial intelligence and such things. And this is a demonic plan. It's dehumanizing. And there are voices who say behind it cannot be a human being anymore. That can be only a non-human form who is in a terrible state on a very low frequency, but actually lives on fear. And that fits into all the old mythologies. The demons are feeding on the fear. The energy for the demons is the human fear. And when that disappears, the demons have to go back into the world of darkness and cannot come out. But if we are in a fear state, we call them. If our soul is not awakened, it's dark, these entities can take over. And that has a strong point. So we need a lot of people who are in the light of consciousness, who are living lights of consciousness and compassion, to send the demons away again. And when you look at these agendas of AI, of MK Ultra, of the World Economic Forum, of course, they advertised as very beautiful. But if you read between the lines, I do not want to live in such a world. And I do not want that anybody lives in such a world where the respect of different points of view, the respect of accepting other religions, even atheists, just to give everybody the right to exist, is taken away. Yeah? I do not want to live in a global fascist regime or communist or whatsoever is. So we have to make that very clear, that mandatory vaccinations, health passports is not for your health, is to take away your outer freedom. It is for control. Now, is it not an absurdity? I know I have a very good feeling, a very sensitive feeling for the body I'm living in. I know when it is ill, I know when it is healthy, I even know when an illness is coming because it has certain signals. And now I have to prove my health to a test. One can give me a false positive. This is madness. This is completely absurd. It gives you the indication that you're unable to feel your body. A test has to tell this. We're creating a paranoid world, or the paranoid world becomes very obvious. Because people do not know who they are. And all these agendas can only exist on the fear level. So we need awakened people who are fearless, who can face the fear and know it's just a phenomenon, and who are beyond the fear of the mind to lose the body. I mean, we all have to leave it. So the identification with the body is the basic ground to live in fear. And the non-released traumas, the non-transcended traumas, keep our energy in that fear vibration. So experiences beyond the dualistic mind is an experience beyond, is the trauma healing. It's just a very fast way. It's the jump, it's a quantum leap. Not for everybody possible. People who have severe ones have to go first to a longer time of healing, but some can jump. And that's how I'm, in quotation marks, we work and play. I'm very much focusing now on the people who can jump, because we need now many people who can jump. And the people who need a longer procedure also need to be taken care of. But there are people who have specialized on that. They are more helpful. I sent also many people where I have the feeling they need first therapy, I have not the time to do the therapy.
How can we do this jump? How can we do the jump? Those of us that are ready.
Do my experience, do an analog meeting and a commitment to a mystic. To a certain extent, it works to the machines, what we are now, but in physical form, it is 1,000 times stronger. So that's the only thing I know, because to me it happened to this one-to-one meeting, to a direct transmission, actually just to a silent look into my eyes. And something started to recognize. And there was also this memory, what came then later, but this time you will not miss it. And I committed completely to it, to my master, so to say. And that commitment is still there, because when you commit to your master, you commit to your true self. What sooner or later has to become actual. And this phrase, this time you will not miss it, indicated one thing. In some incarnation, I missed it. And then I was searching it again. And that's also very important. We have to miss it to realize not again. That's the mistake. There was certainly the fear mind, the ego had other interests. And then you have to go on a very strange journey. You have to lose home to search it again, and you will find it again because it's in you. So I can only recommend or share my experience. And that happened to Ramdas, to countless people. You have to have this direct meeting and be in that energy field for a certain time. Because the law of synchronicity does it all. You only have to be open-minded and open heart. And the synchronicity, the law of synchronicity works. If you play the guitar in a room and on the wall is another guitar, the strings start to resonate in the same frequency. It's a frequency transmission. But you have to find somebody where you feel trust. That's all. You only have to feel trust. And the transmission, the synchronicity is possible. Still, it is possible in this world to travel. It is just made a bit more difficult. But if it is important for the soul, it always finds the way.
How open is the possibility of going to Germany?
For you?
Yeah, for me, for everybody.
You have to find out. You have to find out. There are many Uruguayans have relatives in Europe, right? Especially in Spain, because it's a Spanish-speaking country. And the majority of Uruguayans have Spanish origin, and then Italian, and then some German and some Jewish. But the Jews came from all over the world. So there is always a way. And as far as we can support this, we can write a letter of invitation or something like that. And you still can come into Europe with this idiotic BCR test who actually says nothing, but this is what you want. The BCR test is for scientific research, but not for diagnosis. And that's even written on the prescription. And the inventor of it says you cannot diagnose something with that test. But now they made some people make a business with these things. Now they require that. And you have to fly with mouth masks. what is very unpleasant. But okay, if you're in a fit young body, you can make it. There is this possibility, because I will not travel anymore. I did this, and I do not want to put this older body now to that trouble again, because for me it is very, you see, when the last flight back from Uruguay back to Europe was one of the last planes, what he called repatriation or something like that, with was one of the last planes who took people out to Europe, because my Latam was not flying from Montevideo anymore. There was this whole COVID mess in the world. So we got the last plane out, one of the last or the second last plane via Italy. It was arranged by the Italian government. And then this first were all Italian citizens taken in, and then they had seats left then for other members of the EU, or live in Europe. So we got these seats also. And then this flight with the mask, and then in the airport in Rome, you had to stop in Rome, and then you have to sit there with your mouth mask and wait for the connecting flight to Frankfurt, from Rome to Frankfurt. So all these hours with the mask had an impact on my body. I felt for a week ill. It was really not like, and then I realized I do not want to take that anymore. The thing is, when you get disidentified with the body-mind system, and that's good that people know that, not to give you fear, but to prepare you for it. It becomes so sensitive that I do not want to expose it to unnecessary nonsense anymore. Yeah. So I'm hardly leaving the place here. I only, every 3 months, I have to see my dentist, because this body suffers from an inherited illness called parodontose. I need every 3 months a deeper cleaning of the gums. Otherwise, I would lose my teeth. The same fate my father had. He had healthy teeth, but they all fell out because he had this illness. And you can genetically inherit that. So that happened to this body. So every 3 months I go to this office, and then shortly there I have to wear a mouth mask, what is complete nonsense, but I don't know. Scared, and so this is the only time I do it, and it's for a short time. And I want to talk to him and say, maybe is it possible to take me out of office time, that I do not have to go to this funny procedure all the time. But it's also very humiliating, because I know it's nonsense, and then to follow nonsense rules is somehow absurd.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Here, for example, to go to the supermarket, you need to wear the thing, and it feels so dehumanizing and so irrational and fear mind. Totally.
It's called social engineering, that we get used to absurd regulations. So luckily I do not, the people from the commune here go shopping. I do not, so I do not have to do that. And anyway, I put it below the nose, and people do not say anything about it.
The other day I went to eat lunch. I went to have lunch with my parents and my girlfriend, and you just made me remember. We went in, and they have this kind of machine with a camera that you go close, and I guess it takes the temperature. And so I went close, and I had my thing under the nose, and I went close, and the machine started telling me, "Put your mask on, put your mask on." It was insane. Now even the machines are giving orders. It's very crazy.
Yes, we are prepared for the robot world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a plan. And you see, you expose people long enough to that and tell them this is the new normal, and they accept it.
We get used to it. Yeah.
We get used to it, and the next generation does not know any difference anymore. Yeah? And that goes too far. It's clearly a dehumanizing program. And that needs to stop.
Yes.
And that needs fearless people who say this. Today I saw a very beautiful clip, members from the European Parliament speaking up against that publicly in press conference. They, look, this is against any constitution to making this new stuff mandatory. Since when the government has the right to tell you what therapy you need to take for your body? You have no more the choice to try herbal medicine, homeopathy, you have to take this therapy. This is absurd. This is clear dictatorship. Every human being has the right to choose whatsoever therapy for their body or for their psyche. It cannot be the state telling you this is the only one, and if you do not do this, you get expelled from human life. This goes simply too far. And that's very great that people from, at least from the European Parliament, stand up and say, no, that goes too far. We protest. This is, again, these rights cannot be taken away. And many of them grew up in former Eastern Europe, what had the communist dictatorship. One man said something very beautiful. When the people know what a government does, it's called democracy. When the government only knows what the people do, and you do not know what the government does, it's called dictatorship. Yeah? So the government has all information about you, but you have no information about the government. That's the dictatorship. Democracy means you have all the information what the government does. And the government has just some information about you and respects your privacy. That's called democracy. Democracy means the respect of people's privacy. And dictatorship means it is taken away. You have no right of privacy, and you only get your, they have a campaign here in this country, vaccination is freedom. Interesting. And I said, and the stupidity believes it, and that pisses people off because it's true. And you promise your freedom, but you never get it. And since my basic freedom is connected to a medicine, I do not even need. I'm not scared of this illness. I will never get it, and I will never transport it. I know that. Because you get it because you're living in fear. And I trust my body. If the immune system can handle it, I go on living in the body. If it cannot handle it, then it's my time to leave. Then my visit on this planet is over. And whatsoever I could accomplish is accomplished. And whatsoever I have to still to accomplish, okay, I have to come back.
And I think that goes back to the question we started with on the first hour. This thing of accepting the idea of reincarnation, or of rejecting the invitation to exit the wheel of samsara, right? Like being in contact with the possibility of our freedom, and kind of not feeling ready for such a huge jump.
Yes, but you get the call.
At least it's
Once
been
you get the
activated.
call, yeah, once you get the call, you have to go there. It will, you see, the truth or the reality has the strongest magnetism. So once it is said, even if you have just a few minutes contact with what we call the truth or the reality, or the poetic expression would be the divine, just a few minutes, you can never forget it. You have to go there. That's the call.
That's the way it's been.
You will get scared of it and say, not yet, I'm not ready. Then existence is eternal patience. It's okay, you're not ready yet, but you got the call. So get ready. Do anything to get ready. I have been also at that point, oh, I'm not ready yet. So yeah, okay, we have time, you have time. But logically, you have to get ready. You got the call.
For me, it was kind of like that, but more I had this experience, maybe I've told it to you before, but an experience of I could only call it samadhi, and it was induced by LSD. So I was lying on the grass, and suddenly I was seeing the trees moving in the wind and the clouds and the sky, and suddenly it's like I just faded away, my personality, my identity, and the way the only way I can describe it is that I was looking at all of that, and suddenly I came back. So it's like, I don't know at what point my identity disappeared or faded. It's just very slowly faded out. And suddenly my mind started again. And luckily for me, it was such a blissful experience. There was no fear for the experience of infinity, of being larger than my identity. For some reason, some good karma or whatever, I was ready for that. But then I was left with this longing for this, with trying to get back to that. And in some way, that longing has created some suffering within me, because it's like, oh, I know that exists, but I am not there, or and it's this other side of the coin.
You are always there, but you do not recognize it. Yeah, so you had the chemical enlightenment, the chemical satori. That's for many people the starting point. That was it for Ramdas. Then he had to go in search of his guru, where this transmission can happen in the natural way, where the frequency transmission happens, and where you're not depending on the substance. And a real guru, or call it mystic or spiritual friend, will always make one thing absolutely sure: no dependency. It's just a certain time for learning, for supporting, and then you have to, as we say, walk on your own feet. You will have to leave it. No dependency is allowed. A true mystic can never, always gives it back to the disciple or to the friend. Say, look, now you're grown up enough, face the challenges of your life, finish the journey of your, in a way, individual soul, but still needs to be finished. Face your karmas, balance it, and then you can leave the wheel of samsara forever, but come back out of compassion. That's the Karmapa principle, come back a few times. That's actually Buddha thing, when this symbolic thing, when he's standing on the gates of nirvana, he said, I will not come in. First, every soul who desires, I am the last one to go in. Let them others pass, I'm here to support them. And that is so beautiful. even if you come to the realization, come back for helping souls to find that. And that's according to the Tibetans, who went maybe the most deep into this esoteric metaphysical research, we would say nowadays. They say it's 21 times possible, and then no more possible. Then it has to be started again with some other individual soul who goes to that. And to my subjective understanding, for the evolution in consciousness, we need now to prepare souls to awaken, to crystallize in it, to share it, to leave and come back for the reason of compassion. Now, humanity has become too big. We need to work as teams. You know, if you have a big company in our days, the classical thing with a boss with a big cigar, who is the boss, it's over. He cannot handle the complexity anymore, one individual. He has a team. Yeah, you have to, maybe a very small company you can handle on your own, but if you have a few hundred employees and some wings in that country and some wings there and some sub company, it's too much for an individual. So you have a team of people who work and give you the information, and you sit together, you have team meetings. Our world has become complex, so we need teams. So the same as in the spiritual world. We have to update this. We need teams. And the people who came very far in one life, if they consciously incarnate again, they can pick up the work. They can meet again. They incarnate in groups again, more or less in the same time. Now, in old Tibet, it was very important that you incarnate in Tibet again, because you're familiar with the frequency, you're familiar with the teaching, you're familiar with the whole Tibetan society. So the soul doesn't lose time and energy. It's so familiar it can continue. But Tibet is destroyed, and it had to be so because it is so. The high Tibetan Lama said it's to balance karma, because Tibet had a very dark time before Buddhism. It worked with black magic, with the Bön religion. So we have to balance this karma as a nation. So now Tibet is destroyed. Now we have to create it globally, that awakened souls incarnate again to continue, to recognize each other, and you know why you are here, why they are here again. But this is a bigger dimension. So we have to create out of and that's for me the evolution of consciousness, out of the whole globe, a global Tibet, a spiritual place, a sacred place, because that's what it is. We have just forgotten. And there are a few strange spirits are around who try to hinder that. But that's part of the play. If there is no resistance, no friction, no progress, it's also correct. But we are here, we are here to keep the balance. There are many mystics here, they even not known, they not teach or anything, because it's not their talent or their originality, but they keep the frequency. And this is an invisible network. And to these machines, we can create a visible network. So transmissions right now can even happen via the machine. It's a bit delayed, it's a bit ghosty, but it's still possible. But as I said it in person, in the analog meeting, and to live in a certain frequency for a certain time is enormous supportive. So around mystics who have this talent, this originality, a Buddha field, an ashram, a mystery school happens. They do not create that. If they create this, they are not real. It happens because I cannot create that. If I create it, it will be, forget it. It will be politics. It will be like the society. It will be misuse, you know, of power, of interests, and so on. But even in a mystery school, in an ashram, since there are humans, also such things start to happen. We are not perfect. To leave the society to create an alternative is a courage. But the more difficult thing is to get the society out of your head, out of your impressions. Then you're really free.
So,
yes?
Yes, no, go ahead, please.
So, to be in a spiritual commune for some time where you feel the call, where you can trust, where you feel a resonance in you, is extremely helpful for the journey of your soul. It gives you a good push. And when somebody is at that point, say, yes, this has to happen now, you find your way. And existence supports it. Miracles happen because they have to happen. Nisargadatta Maharaj used to say, if you work for the good of whole humanity, you have the power of the whole humanity. You can say, if you work in line, in the same stream with the universe, what wants to expand in consciousness, wants to go to the evolution in consciousness. You get the energy, the power, the support. This planet is created to awaken. It means the humans need to awaken, to take care of it and not to abuse it. We are here as for care, taking care. The awakening on this planet is the expansion of consciousness in the whole universe. The synchronicity is that we are not the only people in this huge universe. There are other forms also who are intelligent and similar like us. And we are all together in a process. But there are also creations, manifestation of lower frequencies who have this strange job to provoke the light. So for you as an individual, wherever you feel this would support you in your remembrance, just remembrance, then go for it. That's why it is very important that the outer freedom comes back, is not taken away, that this is possible, that you can move freely on that planet. Because maybe your connecting point, it was for me so, was not in Europe. I had to go to India. But it can be that your connecting point you find in Uruguay or in Argentina or close by. But if it is not there, then you have to go there where it is. And that will be never a problem, because if that has to happen, it will be supported with what we call existence.
So to maybe sum up, what I'm getting is, or what I'm understanding is that we both need this Guru Kripa, this grace of the Guru, and at the same time we also need this transcendence of our karma, of our trauma. Or would you say both things happen simultaneous?
They happen simultaneously. They happen simultaneously. This is one package. Yeah. So, yes.
Because I mentioned this just in closing, perhaps we're already close to, yeah, we're even farther from the 1 hour in the second part.
Right.
So just to yeah, so just to round this up and to respect your time, and I want to say thank you so much for this. I mentioned this like two things that that I like get from your sharing, or these two ways of healing and waking up. So the spirit, the part connected to the guru, and the part connected to the healing of the trauma. I mentioned this because the guru can wake you up and help you reach the end of the trampoline, but I guess if the trauma isn't healed, you're not going to take that jump, I guess, right?
You will hesitate.
Mm-hmm.
But this spiritual friend maybe can encourage you at some point, stop with your hesitation and jump. And then your trauma, your karma, you still have to face, but then you can, because you became fearless. Once you have a few times the experience beyond the fear mind, you can face anything. You can, because trauma, karma is fear loaded. And then you already know, the Tibetan people say, fear is the projection of the unenlightened mind. So if your mind is a bit more in the light, it knows, okay, that's a ghost, and it cannot really do me anything because it's a ghost. It's not real, but it feels real. And that confuses the mind. But once the mind is a bit more sober, a little bit more enlightened, then it is not irritated by this paradox anymore. Then you know it's a phenomenon, it's a physical phenomenon, but you are not in danger, because you cannot be in danger. What you are is beyond that form. So even the form is not in danger when in 99% of the cases, when you come to the here and now, and I look around here, I'm alone in this room. What is the danger? If I would now go into a fear thing and come back to the here and now, and that's what you learn with a spiritual friend, to meditation, to always, whatsoever the situation is, it's very simple. You breathe deep, just breathe deeply into your belly, feel your feet at the ground, and come back to the here and now, and the whole fear happening is gone. It resonates a little bit in the body, because the body is slower, the chemistry debuilds a bit slower, but it is gone. It's just a ghost. Okay? And that's the preparation to be around the mystic and direct surrounding. You're in a very high intensity, and it brings up your traumatic experiences. It brings up your fears. And when you do not escape, in that space, they are transcended. Yeah? It's like the purifying fire. But to go into the fire, you need a lot of trust and a lot of courage. It doesn't burn what you are, but it burns what you are not. It burned the famous Egypt picture, the phoenix, what comes out of the ashes. It's born out of fire. It's an ancient picture of transformation, of transcending the fear. The spirit comes out of the ashes.
That's beautiful. And it's actually the logo that I'm using for the
Yes,
show.
yes, great. Yes, exactly. And you can only go into that fire because you're rooted or at least connected to the trustfulness in your heart. A heart has no fear. It's only in the mind. The heart is the center of trust. It knows this fire cannot burn me. It can scare the mind, but does not scare the heart, because the heart knows it's a gate to the beyond. It's a purification. The only thing we have to lose is our fears. And the mind defends them and says, not today, not today, today I'm not ready. Okay, good, today you're not ready, but we will face it tomorrow again. And your heart knows, because the heart is the gateway to your being. The being knows, the heart knows, we have to go that road. We have to face that, and we can. Because you're a grown-up now, you're not small. Just in your subconscious, this is not updated. I cannot take it, this is too much for me. No, you can take it. And the spiritual friend is, so to say, the grown-up for your soul says, come on, I hold your hand, let's do these few steps. You see, you could do it. You know? Or when you learn cycling, somebody holds you, and then they let go, say, you see, you can cycle. But you need just this little support. Yeah, true, I can, you know. Yeah, that's the whole function of a mystic, to encourage you that you realize, actually you can. You're actually fearless. You just have forgotten. For a moment you're shocked and you realize, oh, I was just scared by my own projection, by a memory. It's not real. So let's enlighten that mind via the heart. The trust in the heart puts the light on also in the mind. They say, look, you are scared, but I'm with you. Trust in your heart. And all is well. And the journey is the way, you know. Every step on the way is already the goal. And the journey is endless. It's universal. It has no beginning and it has no end. Only the form has a beginning and an end. But forms are always available in that universe. So let the mysterious play. Okay, Rafa.
Thank you, Pan.
Until whenever.
Yes, until next
Maybe
time.
next year. We are close to the end of the year.
Yes. But I send you all my love, and well, yes, and all the greatest blessings for you and your community in what's left of this year, and for the next year to have a great experience there. And I hope we meet in person again very soon also.
Yeah. If you want, prepare for it. You're welcome. I'm waiting for you.
Thank you.
Okay, see you again.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye. And thank you, everybody, for being with us. I hope also to send all blessings and love to all of you as well. And yeah, and we'll see each other again on the next Mystic Times. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.